Chapter 245 of Shrimadbhagavatam, Lakshana, Duryodhana's daughter. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. A Swayamvara was held in Hastina. The princess was Lakshana, the daughter of Duryodhana. Sambha, the son of Krishna, and Jambavati went there and forcibly carried away the princess. The Kauravas were displeased at this and said, "This young man is far inferior to us in every way. He should not be allowed to marry our princess. His behavior is not good. Without asking for her hand in the approved manner, he has forced his attentions on our Lakshana. Let us capture him and tie him up. What can the Yadavas do? They are, after all, our vassals, and they can do nothing to us. When they hear that their son has been captured by us and imprisoned, they will then realize our power. Their arrogance will be brought under control, like the senses are when a man practices pranayama." Karna, Shala, Buri, and Duryodhana led the group. The elders like Bhishma did not object to this. Sambha saw that he was being pursued by the Kaurava host. He fought single-handed with them. They could not face his valor. He fought with them for a long time and they were not able to do anything to him. Finally, they all surrounded him and all together they vanquished him and captured him. It was Narada, as usual, who gave the news to Balarama and to Krishna that Sambha had been captured by the Kauravas and imprisoned. The Yadavas were getting ready to fight, to attack Hastina and to reach the Kauravas a lesson. Balarama, however, had been ever a peace-loving man. He tried to avert the fight. He pacified his angry kinsmen and, accompanied only by some elders and several Brahmins, he rode to Hastina in his chariot. Like the sun surrounded by the planets, he stood outside the city of Hastina. He stopped the chariot in the gardens on the outskirts of the city. Balarama sent Uddhava as a messenger to Dhritarashtra to announce to him and to the elders, Bhishma and Drona and others, that Balarama had come to Hastina and that he wanted to meet them. Uddhava went with the message to the court of the king. Bhishma was there, Dhritarashtra and Drona as well as Kripa, also Duryodhana and his inevitable companions Karna and Shakuni. They received Uddhava's message very graciously and came out to meet Balarama with rich gifts and the many articles which are, as a rule, taken when receiving a honored guest. They met Balarama and honored him as was his due. They then exchanged courtesies and inquired after the well-being of all those at Dwaraka and at Hastina. After all these exchanges were over, Balarama said, "Please listen carefully to the message sent by our king, my grandfather, King Ugrasena. We have come to know that our child Shambha has been captured in an adharma fight by you and that he has been kept as a prisoner. We do not like to let misunderstandings spoil family feelings and the friendly relationship we have been having all these years. There should be union amongst kinsmen, and so, without delay, please return our child to us after releasing him from this humiliating bondage." These words of Balarama, couched in much gentle and soft terms, were not received well by the Kauravas. They laughed at him and said, "Indeed, you think too highly of yourselves. You have become our kinsmen because of the fact that Kunti, one of your daughters, was given in marriage to our prince. Or else, how can you claim this kinship with us, with the great house of the Kauravas? In our generosity, we have let you rule the kingdom which rightly belongs to us. And again, since we are not very particular, we have let you behave as though you are our equals. Actually, we should have objected long ago to your use of a throne and a white umbrella, which are the insignia of royalty. Evidently, these favors have gone to your heads and you seem to be under the impression that you can dictate terms to us. How can you dare to hope that the captive you have will be given a chance to come back to you? Without waiting for a reply from Balarama, they turned their faces towards the city. Balarama was so shocked by the behavior of the Kauravas and their words, which were so very insulting, that for a moment he stood stunned. He did not know what to say for a while. He then spoke to his companions and said, I made a mistake. The Yadavas were very keen on fighting with these men. Krishna was furious because of his son being captured, and they all wanted to come and fight. The army was being assembled. I was the one who stopped them and said that one should try and avoid a quarrel with one's kinsman at any cost. Evidently, Krishna and the others were right and I was in the wrong. Animals which have too much fat in them should be punished only by beating, and soft words will not get you anywhere with arrogant people, since they do not understand them. The Kauravas are slow-witted and proud, and evidently they are spoiling for a fight, and that is why they had the courage to talk like this to me. There is nothing which makes man lose his sense except power and the pride born of wealth. I will teach them a lesson. I will make the world Kaurava-less. He took up his weapon, the plough, and he said, I will pull the entire city of Hastina and drown it in the river Ganga. Balarama struck the earth with his plough and began to pull the city towards the river. The men in the city felt a tremor in the earth. A moment later, the tremor increased, and it seemed as though the earth was shaking. The city began to move slowly but steadily towards the river. People rushed out of their house in panic. The Kauravas saw what was happening. Too late they realized it. They had to appease Balarama at any cost. They rushed to the prison where Sambha was held captive, and hurriedly they placed him in a chariot, and with him they placed the princess. They rushed to the spot where Rama was stationed, and all the while the city was moving steadily towards the river. The citizens followed their kings, and everyone rushed to Rama and said, Please desist from the destruction of innocent people. We have sinned against you, and we ask you to forgive us. In our arrogance we were blind, and we insulted the power that is you. You must take pity on us and be merciful. Save us, forgive us. Balarama was famed for his short temper. He could get angry very easily, but could be pacified easily too. He was pleased with the way they realized their fault, and he pulled out his plough from the ground, saying, Do not be afraid. I will not hurt your city any more. Duryodhana fell at his feet with tears in his eyes. When Balarama was in Mithila, during the unpleasant episode relating to the killing of Satrajit and the pursuit of the killer Shatadhanva, Duryodhana had come to Mithila and had spent a long time with Balarama. He had become the pupil of Rama and had learned the art of fighting with the mace from Balarama. It was this, the fact that his pupil should have treated him like this, which had angered Balarama so much. But Duryodhana, now repentant, made up for it by giving costly gems and clothes and fully caparisoned horses and elephants and other suitable gifts to young Samba. After having been honored like this, Balarama left for his Dwaraka with the young couple. He related to his brother and the others that happenings at Hastina and his own anger, which was pacified later. It is said that even now the city of Hastina shows the signs of Balarama's wrath by leaning towards the river Ganga on the southern side. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamast.
Chapter 246 of Shrimadbhagawata. Two requests to Krishna.
Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya.
Once, when Krishna was seated in the council hall by name Sudharma with his brothers and others, there came to see him a stranger. He was announced and asked to come in. He entered and he saluted to the entire assembly. He had placed both his hands on his head and he stood like that for a while. He then fell at the feet of Krishna and said, I have come from Girivraja, the capital of Jarasandha. A sudden silence fell on the entire group of listeners. The name of their old enemy was enough to alert them. The stranger felt the silence and looked inquiringly at them. They looked at Krishna and he said, And what is the message sent to us by our enemy Jarasandha? The messenger shook his head and said, It is not from Jarasandha. I am sorry I did not speak clearly right from the beginning. I am coming from the many kings whom he has kept as prisoners in his mountain fort. Jarasandha, as you know, is a great bhakta of Lord Mahadeva, and he has sworn that he would offer a garland, a mala made of the heads of the kings, a runda mala of crowned heads. With this intention, he has defeated several kings, and if they are still alive, it is because 100 has not been reached yet. These captive kings have sent you a message through me. They say, Krishna, we have been told that your prowess is unequaled and that you have ever protected those who have come to you for succor. We have surrendered ourselves to you entirely. We have no one else but you. They say that a man who is so fond of his life that he forgets to perform any good actions, who is intent on doing only wrong things, who has not earned the punya of having a darshan of the Lord, such a man will not live very long, and his next birth will also be lacking in the grace of Lord. As for us, we have long abandoned the desire to live long. Our thoughts have been set only on you and your glory. Because of our constant meditation on you, the desires of the world have no charm for us. You are time and we salute you. We have been told that you have taken this human form for the purpose of destroying sinfulness and to establish dharma on the earth once again. When such is the case, how is it possible for an ordinary mortal like Jarasandha to make us, so many of us, unhappy? It is indeed sad that such pain and suffering and unhappiness should exist on the earth where Narayana and Adishesha are said to be walking as ordinary human beings. Such a thing should not happen, my lord. The many pleasures of the world, which are the birthright of kings, are to us very much like some glorious dreams we had, and they are just as evanescent. We know it and we have realized it, and yet we are unhappy because of the Maya created by you. We are worrying about our children and our people who we have been forced to abandon because of Jarasandha. We should, in the natural course of events, forget all these things, break all these bondages, and think on your lotus feet to attain tranquility. But we are not able to do so. We are unhappy, and this has happened to us, and it is up to you to help us. Jarasandha, who has the strength of 10,000 elephants, has tied us up like a herd of cattle. The bondage is giving us pain, even as the bondage of karma. Please release us from these, Lord. The messenger said, This is the message which the captive kings have sent through me secretly. They have set all their hopes on your helping them. You have to release them.
Even as he was finishing his talk, sage Narada, glowing like a heap of gold, appeared in their midst. Everyone stood up as one man and honored the son of Brahma. He was seated on a high and noble seat, and then Krishna said, My lord, we are eager, as always, to hear what is happening in the world of men as you see it. There is nothing which you do not know, and so please tell us the purpose of your visit and what my immediate duty is. Krishna smiled mischievously as he said this, and Narada smiled back.
Narada said, Krishna, if you had spoken these words to someone else, it would have been fitting. But I am the wrong person. I happen to know who you are. You are the absolute truth, and I have seen your Maya too often to be deceived by it. It does amuse me to see you talk as though you know nothing about what is happening in the world outside. Still, to please you, I will also keep up the pretense and answer accordingly. Nothing very important is happening, nothing worth mentioning, except perhaps the one thought in the mind of your cousin Yudhishthira. He wants to perform the Rajasuya. He wants to honor you after the yaga is ended. I request you to accept the honor when it is conferred on you. The very flower of chivalry will assemble in the great hall when Yudhishthira performs the Rajasuya. It has been said that even low born men have been born, so because of sins committed in the previous Janmas, even they, I have been told, are cleansed of all their sins if they have a chance to look at you even once. Listening to your stories, singing your praises, meditating on you, all are paths that lead to liberation. When such is the case, need I say how much more easily man can obtain salvation if he sees your Sri Murti? When you enter the hall, it will be as pure as the river Ganga which flows from your feet, who is called Mandakini in the heavens, Ganga on earth, and Bhogavati in the nether regions. Such is the sanctity the earth gets by the touch of your feet. Please make the Rajasuya hallowed by your presence.
Narada was wiping the tears which had sprung to his eyes when he spoke of the glory of the Lord. Krishna looked around him. He could see that his Yadava kinsmen were more desirous of fighting with Jarasandha and releasing the kings who had asked for help than thinking about the doubtful thrill of attending the Rajasuya in the distant future. Krishna turned his large eyes on Uddhava and said, Uddhava, you are the wisest of our counselors, and you have ever wished us well. Your thoughts will penetrate into the root of the matter under consideration, and you will be able to tell us if a thing is possible or if it is out of the question. Please consider well and tell us what should be done now under the circumstances. Set a difficult task by the all knowing who pretended that he knew nothing and that he wanted advice on how to act under the circumstances. Uddhava stood up and spoke. In a moment, he grasped that the words of the messenger from Girivraja and the words of Narada had different effects on different people. The princess and the other Yadavas were for fighting with Jarasandha, and as for Krishna, he was all for going to Indraprastha and meeting Yudhishthira. Uddhava thought for a while and then said, Krishna, it seems to me both the tasks are equally important and both of them need urgent attention. Your cousin Yudhishthira needs your help and advice in the great task he is going to undertake, and as for the kings who have been imprisoned, every day is a day more of torture for them, and they must be released as early as we can. The sooner, the better. If I have heard right, Rajasuya can be performed only by a king who has defeated all the kings of the world, which means that Yudhishthira cannot perform the Rajasuya unless and until he conquers Jarasandha. By your attending the Rajasuya, you will be serving both ends. You will be pleasing Yudhishthira who needs you now, and you will also be hastening the rescue of the kings who have appealed to you for help. You will get the credit of having helped the captive kings. I am also thinking of a method of vanquishing Jarasandha. We have heard that he has the strength of 10,000 elephants. The only way in which he can be killed is by fighting a duel with him. And the one who can do that must also have the same strength. Bhima, the brother of Yudhishthira, is reputed for his strength. If Bhima calls Jarasandha for a fight, he, being a Kshatriya, cannot refuse the challenge and will have to fight with Bhima. Bhima will surely win. You asked me for a suggestion, and I have thought out the problem well, and this is the only way which seems to me practicable.
Everyone appreciated to the deep thought which was spent by him in arriving at the solution to the difficult problem. Narada, the eldest of the court, and even Narada, the elders of the court, and even the youngsters who were itching to fight Jarasandha had to accept the suggestion as a wise one. As for Krishna, he was very happy since Uddhava had voiced his opinion. He spoke to the messenger from Girivraja. He said, "Convey to the kings that we will soon release them from the prison and we will bear their troubles in mind and find the way out very soon. Ask them to be patient for just a while more. They will soon be happy." The messenger, after saluting them all, went back to Girivraja and reported to the captive kings that help was on its way and their troubles would soon be ended. Narada, finding that his journey to Dwaraka was fruitful, went on his way singing the praises of Narayana. In his mind's eye, he saw the Rajasuya, its conclusion and the end of Shishupala. Krishna began to make preparations to go to Indraprastha. He asked Daruka to get his chariot ready as soon as it was at the doorstep of the palace.
Krishna crossed many countries: Anartha, Sauvira, Maru, and he passed Kurukshetra. Rivers and mountains passed by, and cities, villages, Gokulas, and several fields of luscious green. The holy river by name Drishadwati and then Saraswati were next crossed. Panchala had been reached, Matsya, and then the famous city Indraprastha. Before Krishna reached the outskirts of the city, Yudhishthira had been told Krishna had arrived. With his powerful brothers and with Brahmins and several friends, the eldest Pandava went to the gateway of the city to receive their cousin. Trumpets were sounded and sweet music. Krishna descended from the chariot holding on to the hand of Yudhishthira, who embraced him again and again like a long lost friend. Tears of joy filled the eyes of the brothers and those of Krishna too. Krishna was particularly fond of these cousins of his, who were not as fortunate as they ought to have been, considering that they were the sons of Pandu. It was their good fortune that they were able to surmount so many of the troubles which came their way. Now, finally, they were settled, and it looked as though nothing would happen to shake them out of this secure position.
Yudhishthira was bent on performing the Rajasuya, which meant that the entire world should accept him as the suzerain. Bhima smiled wildly as he embraced Krishna, and Krishna patted him on his back and laughed with him. Krishna fell at the feet of Yudhishthira and Bhima and embraced Arjuna, who was his equal in age. Nakula and Sahadeva fell at his feet. He lifted them up and spoke sweet words to all of them. The streets had been decorated since Krishna was coming, and scented water had been sprinkled all through the path which Krishna was to take on his way to the palace. Krishna went first to the apartments of Kunti and prostrated before her. She blessed him with tears in her eyes. Krishna extricated himself from her embrace with difficulty. She was so fond of him. He then greeted Draupadi, the queen of the 5 Pandavas. He stood by the side of She stood by the side of Kunti and Yudhishthira in the joy of seeking Krishna, forgot to even forgot to even his daily duties. Forgot even his daily duties. Draupadi went to the wives of Krishna who had come with him and took them with her to her apartments.
Several days passed happily for Krishna and the Pandavas. They would wander around in the gardens and they would spend their time admiring the Mayasabha, which was so skillfully wrought by him. Often they would go out hunting and often they would play dice to pass the time. Om
Om Namo
Namo
Bhagavate
Bhagavate
Vasudevaya.
Vasudevaya.
Shri
Shri
Krishna
Krishnar
Parnamastu.
Pranamastu. Chapter 247 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Discussions. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. One day, when the assembly hall was full of the ministers, elders, and other well wishers, Yudhishthira addressed Krishna seriously and said, Krishna, my lord, you must have been told by Narada about my thoughts. For the last few months, I have been considering if I should perform this Rajasuya. But unless and until you approve of my desire, I will not pursue it any further. He paused and looked at Krishna, who looked serious and seemed intent on the next words which were to follow. Yudhishthira cleared his throat and said, I know why you sit silent. To you it seems such an unlikely desire on my part, this desire to be Lord of the world. You are right. I have never been ambitious, but I have been told that my father has no right to be in the court of Indra unless he has performed the Rajasuya. Since he died before he could perform it, he has sent word to me asking me to do it for his sake, and that is the only reason why I am thinking of it. I want to perform the Rajasuya if possible. If you think it is possible, I will do it. I will devote further thought to it, or else I will not think on it anymore. I know that you are the only one who will consider all the possibilities and tell me clearly if it is too ambitious on my part to consider this step or no. Silence reigned in the hall for a while. Krishna, after a long pause, spoke with great deliberation. He said, No, I do not think that you are too ambitious, Yudhishthira. You will be doing something which will win the approval of rishis, pitras, the devas, and your friends. As for you, you are capable of defeating all the kings of Bharatavarsha. You are yourself no mean warrior, and your powerful brothers will, I know, will win the entire world for you. You are all the sons of gods who guard the quarters, and the kings born of earth will easily be defeated by your brothers. But Yudhishthira at once said, But what is the obstacle you are thinking of, Krishna? Krishna looked at everyone and said, Jarasandha, my very dear enemy, and smiled at them all. Yudhishthira's face fell. He said, I think I will be giving up all thoughts of Rajasuya, Krishna. Jarasandha is invincible. You are right. Even you and Rama had to keep on fighting with him. When even you could not kill him, who can? He does not love us either. He is a great friend of the Kauravas and he will not be my friend. You are the best friend I have, and you have shown me what a foolish desire it was of mine to perform this yaga. Krishna said, You should not abandon an enterprise of such importance all because of one powerful man whom you have to subdue. There will be some way out of it. Yudhishthira went off at a tangent and asked, Krishna, tell me, what does this Jarasandha possess that he should have been able to withstand you and your prowess? I think he cannot be killed by anyone since you have not been able to do it. Krishna said, his birth is one reason, and his devotion to Lord Mahadeva has lent him the cloak of invincibility, and this is very difficult to penetrate. He is not an ordinary man, and ordinary methods will not suffice to quell him. Do you know what? Do you know that he is planning to offer a Rundamala to his beloved Lord Mahadeva? A Rundamala? I do not understand, said Yudhishthira. He has defeated so many kings and he has kept them all as captives. He has about 95 or so now. When he makes up 100, he is going to sever the heads and thread them and offer the garland as his gift to Mahadeva. The entire court was horrified to hear this. Yudhishthira said, you said something about his birth which was not ordinary. Tell us about it. Tell us why he is so powerful. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamast. Chapter 248 of Shrimadbhagavatam. Jarasandha the Powerful. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Brihadrata, the king of Magadha, had no children. He was very despondent, and deciding to assume the life of a sannyasi, he went to the forest. There he saw a rishi who saw why he was so sad. He told the king that he would give him a fruit, eating which his wife would get a son who would be famed throughout the world for his strength and for his devotion to Mahadeva. The king accepted the fruit. Since he had two wives, he cut it into two and gave one half to each of them. In time, they were both heavy with child. As soon as they reached their time, there was great excitement in the city, and the king was eagerly waiting for the birth of his sons. But there was nothing but pain in the mind of the king when the child was born, when the children were born, because there was no child at all. Each queen gave birth to half a child. There was no life in the half child which was lying by the side of each of them. It was horrible to see the lifeless body with half a head, one eye, one nostril, one eyebrow, one shoulder, and so on. The king, in disgust, asked the halves to be thrown away. There was nothing but sadness reigning in the city that night. Jara was a Rakshasi who would enter the city by night and eat whatever she found. That night, she came and found the two pieces of a newborn child's body. She was happy that she had found something to eat. She took the two pieces and took them to a lonely spot where she would be undisturbed while eating and where no one would see her. There she sat, and to facilitate eating, she placed the two halves together. Suddenly, she heard the cry of a newborn child. She looked around to see where the cry came from. To her amazement, she found that the two halves, when they were placed together, had joined up and had become whole. There was now life in the child, and it was crying. Jara did not have the heart to kill it and eat it. She took the child to the king and gave it to him, saying, "Here is your son." With wonder in his voice, he said, "I have no child, and who are you? Why do you bring a newborn child to me and say it is mine?" Jara told him what had happened, and the king was thrilled. So grateful was he to the Rakshasi that he called his son Jarasandha. He was immensely pleased that he now had a son, and a son who would be powerful as well as God-fearing. Jarasandha is a great devotee of Mahadeva. He had with him a Gada, which was the gift of the Lord to him. As long as he had it, this king was invincible. But when he followed Balarama and me to the hill Pravarshana, we escaped by vanishing from the top of the hill. In his anger, he threw the Gada in our direction. It broke a part of the hill, and when Jarasandha tried to take it back, it would not get disengaged. A voice from the sky said that he could not get it out of the hill and that he had lost it. Now that he is without his Gada, Jarasandha is not as powerful as he once was. He can be tackled. Yudhishthira went into a deep silence. And everyone was thinking too. Bhima was frowning with anger, and Arjuna stood up suddenly and said, "This is not a decision to be made by thinking. It should be made by the sword, by the bow and arrow, or by mace. We are Kshatriyas and we have never been afraid of anyone or anything. What strange hesitation is this, my lord, that you should abandon all thoughts of Rajasuya because one man is powerful? Are we not powerful? If he has the grace of Shankara to protect him, do we not have the Lord of Lords here with us? Why should you worry, brother, when Krishna is here?" Bhima rushed to him and embraced him and said, "That was just what I was thinking. Only I can never speak. I am still nervous in the presence of my elder brother." Everyone laughed at this naive talk, and Krishna slapped him on his back, and holding Arjuna's hand in his, he said, "I am pleased with your talk. I think we should go to Giri Brija, the fort of Jarasandha, and fight with him." Bhima threw up his Gada in joy, and Yudhishthira had a questioning look in his eyes as if to say, "How are these three going to manage it?" But he knew that Krishna had some plan, and he did not want to ask him about it. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Shri Krishnar Pranamastu.